All right, well, we'd like to welcome everybody to another Cornerstone Conversation series. Today, we have the great pleasure of having Senator Tommy Tuberville, who has been a real champion when it comes to protecting Title IX. You know, it was a long time coming that we had some degree of equality with women's sports. And now there seems to be a push to disregard the rights of biologic women. And Senator, you have been a champion in this area. And I just want to also, for those who may not know, who perhaps have been living under a rock for the last quarter of a century, that you've had a storied career as a football coach. Most notably at Auburn, but at University of Mississippi as well, University of Cincinnati. You were a Red Raider for a little while. I mean, you've been around and have won some very prestigious awards, including a 13-0 season. I mean, that's no minor thing, and beating Alabama 6 times in a row. I'm pretty impressed with all that, but I'm even more impressed with the fact that you're willing to stand up to what's going on right now. And, you know, I remember as HUD secretary having to deal with this issue as well. And I had a lot of women's groups who were very, very disgruntled by the fact that you had to allow transgender people to come into their shelter. I have no problem with transgender people. You know, they're people like everybody. God commands us to love everyone. But that doesn't mean that we trample on everybody else's rights and everybody else's feelings. And a lot of those women sent very poignant letters talking about how upset they were. Because in many cases, they were victims of abuse. The last thing they wanted to see was a man, quite frankly. And here comes one claiming to be a woman. And it really does not take into regard their feelings at all. I did encounter some situations where there were shelters that had special accommodations for transgenders. And I think that was actually a pretty good solution. But I am very anxious to hear, you know, what prompted you to get into this Title IX battle?
Well, thank you, Dr. Carson, for allowing me to be on. And it's been a pleasure for now, I guess, a year and a couple of months of representing the great state of Alabama as a United States Senator. As you said earlier, I had some success of beating my state rival when I was at Auburn, beating the University of Alabama 6 times in a row and 7 out of 10. And my wife said when I decided to run for the Senate seat, she says, how in the world are you going to get these Alabama fans to vote for you? They didn't like you very much a few years ago, but I worked real hard and got them to come over to our side and told them that I was going to come up here with common sense thoughts and try to help the great state of Alabama and the people of this country. But as you said, I coached for 40 years. And one of the biggest, I would say, improvements that we made in academics and athletics while I was coaching at a very young age in the mid 70s was I coached girls basketball in 1976 at a high school along with football, and Title IX had just started. And when Title IX started, Dr. Carson, there was single digits percentages of girls in high school of playing sports. I'm talking about single digits. When Title IX started, it opened up facilities, funding, athletic scholarships, and almost immediately you saw the rise and dedication of women's sports across our country. Maybe one of the best things that the federal government has done, especially for women. And it's grown and grown over the years. Now we send women athletes all over the world. They're the best, some of the best athletes in the world. A lot of them are doing it for a living in pro sports. Athletic scholarships have gone up for women 600% since Title IX hit. So there's a lot of great things that's happened. And now we're here today talking about some of the same groups, like some of the feminist groups that were very much in favor of Title IX. Now, where are they? When now we're talking about transgender boys playing women's sports. It's absolutely amazing to me that we don't have a lot of people standing up and shouting from the rooftop saying, we can't do this. We built this. We've got it going in the right direction. And now we're going to allow young boys that are 40 to 50% stronger upper body, 30-40% stronger in the lower body, have 12 to 15 pounds more of body muscle. Their skeletal muscles are bigger, their hearts are bigger, their lungs are bigger. And we're going to allow them to participate against girls. And at the end of the day, it's about fairness. And there's nothing fair about this, Dr. Carson. You know that. And so I would just love to get this put behind us. And if they want to play transgender sports or something like that, as you said, we're all for everybody. But when it comes to fairness, we can't allow this to happen.
That would be a good solution. Just have a transgender league, because you look at somebody like Leah Thomas. Now, you can give her all the hormone treatments you want, but she's still got bigger hands than the women, which means when you're swimming and you cuff that hand, you have an advantage. And you look at the way that women are built versus the way men are built. You look at their pelvic structures. The women's pelvic structures are meant to give birth. Men don't have to do that. So they have a much more streamlined and effective and efficient system there for running. And, that would translate to swimming as well. And those are things that are not going to be ameliorated or changed in a significant way by hormone therapy. And I'm not exactly sure why those who are trying to change things don't understand that. You take Leah Thomas, who also ran in the men's swimming sports, who is breaking all the women sporting records. That right there tells you that this is entirely unfair. But what specifically does S-251 intended to do?
Well, it's the Protect Women and Girls in Sports Act, and it basically upholds Title IX, the protections. And, the bill ensures Title IX provisions treat gender, and they're recognized from birth, that your gender at birth, that you can't change that gender to participate in Title IX sports. Senator Mike Lee and I introduced this, and, I had an amendment on the floor when I first got here, and we talked about it and we had it voted on the floor in a vote-a-rama. And I got one vote from the Democrat side, Joe Manchin. That's a familiar tone.
The only reasonable person, yeah.
Yeah, and so I just shocked that anybody would see the unfairness in this. And you were saying earlier, these records are being broken.
Yeah,
they're not being broken by a second or 2 seconds. They're being broken by 15, 20 seconds. And that's unheard of. And so it's just goes back to what I was saying earlier, fairness.
Well, what can the American people do? We all have a sphere of influence. Is there anything that the average American citizen can do?
Well, just write letters. It's got to be done up here on our level, but there has to be an alternative. And that's what we have to present.
Well, there seems to be, I keep running into people who are just so frustrated these days about the direction of our country. And, we've relinquished a lot of our founding principles and values, such as our faith, our sense of community, our liberty, which is really a factor right now. You look at what's going on in Canada and spreading around to other parts of the world. People have gotten accustomed to freedom and to liberty. And do you think that we're going down an inexorable path, or do you think there's a strong chance that we can get our freedoms back that have been taken away from us with an artificial thing like COVID. And even after at Johns Hopkins, they came out with a study that showed that all these lockdown measures were not effective. There are still those who want to do it. What are we going to do as a nation about freedom?
Well, if you look at it, at the end of the day, it's all common sense. You know, this country was built on a constitution that's made us stronger and stronger for 245 years. And since I've been here, the thing that has affected me more is seeing the left, how they dance around our Constitution. They bend it. Sometimes they break it. They do it for reasons of elections, not for reasons of being fair and judgmental and giving the opportunity to people to have success. If you go back and just look and talk about sports as we're talking about Title IX, you know, men have had sports for a long time, and you learn a lot of things from sports. You learn how to deal with success, failure. You learn how to deal with teammates. You learn how to your work ethic. All those things go along with it. Same thing with women. But now we're trying to change the rules in midstream where you see men and women look at this going, you know, what is right? What is right in this country? This is a very simple answer to this Title IX and transgender. It's a very simple answer. It's not right. It's not fair. And we need to give all people the right for fairness. And again, as we said, we got to find some way for them to participate, but it can't be against people that they would dominate. It can't be. But this country is going to survive. We're strong. But right now, we're being attacked from all angles, from the progressive left. They want to change the rules. They want to change the country, and they want to change what this country means. And not one time do you ever hear up here, Dr. Carson, about God. God is never brought up on the left. They want God to be out of our lives. They want a nuclear family to be gone, and they want to change that to where everybody's leans on government.
Yeah.
And
well, there was a time, I'm sure your fellow Senator Shelby could tell you, when Democrats and Republicans actually got along together pretty well, because we both want the same thing. We had different ways of getting there, but you know, those were not major differences. Now we don't necessarily want the same thing. Now you have a situation where the leftists, and there are some left-leaning Republicans, so you know, I prefer to talk in terms of leftists. They seem to want to fundamentally change who we are as a nation. And I don't know if you remember, but many, many years ago, Nikita Khrushchev said that to Eisenhower, he said that your grandchildren's children will live under communism, and we will never have to fire a shot. Now, what the heck was he talking about? He obviously knew that they were not going to defeat us on the battlefield, but that we could be taken down from inside. That all you had to do is gain control of the educational system so that you could indoctrinate the children. Gain control of the media so that you could spoon feed the people only what you wanted them to know. A tremendous propaganda tool. Remove faith in God and substitute faith in government, and drive the national debt to astronomical levels so you could justify massive taxation, redistribution of wealth, and total dependency on the federal government. Does it seem to you like those are the things that are happening right now?
Oh, there's no doubt about it. You know, I used to tell my players this, Dr. Carson, that, you know, they all come in from different lives, single parent homes, two parents, no parents, urban, rural, black, white, Asian. They're making a difference. You know, I had to build a team from kids from all over the country. and they all wanted different things. They would want things. And the one thing I had to get in their mind, listen, this country owes you one opportunity, owes you one thing. It owes you that opportunity. And you take that opportunity. Now, you might fail at it. You might get knocked down, and you're probably going to get knocked down at times in your life. But then it gives you that opportunity to get back up and go again.
Exactly.
There's so many people that want more from the government, and that's what the left is trying to teach people, that we will take care of you. Big government will take care of you. You don't have to work as hard. You don't have to lean on your faith. You don't need two parents in your home. You know, the one thing that sports will do, it will unify you. It will give you an identity. That's one of the few things we have now. I saw education years ago start going down the drain. The teachers' unions have absolutely run us amok in education. We're 37th in the world in math today. We're 12th in reading and writing. Half the kids in this country can't read past the 6th grade reading level, the ones that are getting out of school today. We don't teach the basics. We don't teach civics. We don't teach, you know, how was our government started? You know, why do we have Congress? Why do we have, you know, a constitution? Why do we have a Declaration of Independence? They don't know that. They've never been taught it.
Well, you've hit on something that is so vital to the success of this country. Senator Tuberville, when he came in 1831 to study America on behalf of the French and the Europeans who were curious about how this nation, barely 50 years old, could already compete with them on virtually every level. And one of the things that he noted was the tremendous educational emphasis that we had in this country. And I find it just fascinating that there are all these people who talk about how, you know, we have systemic racism in this country and it precludes success for certain people. And that's based on the color of their skin. Now, I wonder why it is that certain people who have dark skins don't have the wealth gap, don't have that problem, like Nigerians and Ghanaians. And what you will find if you go to one of those families is that they put a tremendous emphasis on education. Baseline in a Nigerian household is a bachelor's degree. That's the baseline. And a tremendous amount of emphasis on family and family structure. Now, it seems to me that those are the very things that are breaking down and have broken down significantly in the African-American communities in this nation. And I believe that has a whole lot more to do with anything than skin color, but it's so much easier just to blame everything on racism. And if we were a systemically racist country, why would people be forming caravans trying to get in here? And when they got in here, they would say to all of their friends and relatives, don't come here. They wouldn't be trying to open the door to get more to come. So, you know, if people just stop, think for a moment and observe what's going on, I think they will move in the right direction. But do you think that NCAA will ever come around on this transgender issue, or are they gone? I mean, I'm sure you've talked to some of them.
Well, I've talked to them all my life in a coach's perspective. I've been on rules committees and dealt with NCAA, and that they have a hard job. They govern all sports, Olympic sports, team sports, and they have a hard job to make sure everything's fair and equal. But sometimes when you're in a leadership role, you have to make tough decisions. And it seems like when the decisions are tough to make, they kick the can down the road, just like they did on this transgender issue. They just kicked it down the road, said every sport's going to handle it the way they need to handle it. They'll make their own decisions. We're going to stay out of it. Basically what they're saying is we don't want the lawsuits. And so now it's going to end each individual sport. And usually these individual sports, they go by the Olympic Committee rules and regulations, and they're all for transgender athletes. And so we're back to square one. And we're probably going to have to get more involved up here. But again, I've never seen a law or a bill or a action that has been taken by the federal government, like Title IX, that was so successful, and now they're trying to tear it down. It just goes to show you, in this country, something's going on. Something's happening. Something's happening to tear us apart. And this is going to be a huge part of the agenda in the election next year. And I think people are going to find out real quick that most people are going to be for Title IX in women's sports.
And I think it even goes beyond the sports arena, because now you have little children in school being asked, do you feel like you're a girl? Do you feel like you're a boy? And of course, you probably heard about the case a few weeks ago, California teacher who was trying to indoctrinate one of the little girls into changing and make sure you don't tell your parents. I mean, this is unbelievable that people could get away with this kind of stuff in our society today. But can you imagine the effect on a child who has an immature brain of someone trying to ask you, are you a girl or a boy? And some of the books that they have in preschool about worms and how worms can go in either direction. They can be male or female. Why would you be teaching that to a little child? And then some of the other material that I've seen, it's frank pornography. Our children are being exposed to that at a time of innocence in their lives, when they're supposed to be determining who they are as a person, what direction they want to go, and not whether they're a male or a female. And of course, if you keep asking that question and you make that, a priority and something that they're thinking about all the time, obviously with an immature brain, a lot of them are going to make inappropriate decisions. And that's why they have parents to help guide them. But when we try to exclude the parents from that equation, you look and you see what's going on with the mask, with teaching them about gender problems. Year over year, from 2020 to 2021, we've had a 40% increase in the number of emergency room visits for children with psychiatric emergencies. And I suspect that will just continue to get worse unless at some point we come back to common sense and start working with science and with biology rather than crafting our own science and biology. The same thing with COVID. Now, we know that, the chances of a child dying from COVID, a healthy child, is infinitesimally small. It's approaching zero. We do not, however, know what the long-term risk of the vaccines are, particularly with spike proteins and how they interact with other surface organ systems. We have no idea what the long-term impact is going to be. So why would you trade a situation where you have almost zero risk for unknown future long-term risk? Again, these are things that don't make any sense. So, we teach children that they may not be a male or a female. We teach, white children that they're oppressors. We teach Black children that they're being oppressed. I mean, how in the world are they supposed to grow up and be normal people?
Well, you're exactly right. And it all goes back to one thing about God, family, leadership. The one thing that we'll have a big fight up here about, and I'm going to continue this fight, and we've got to win this battle, is school choice. We got to give these kids an opportunity, and whether it's a two-parent home or one-parent home, or maybe a grandparent that's the overseer of these young people, they have to have a choice to send them where they want. And because our government education In some places, it's pretty good. And we have some good teachers and we have some good administrators. But as a whole, at the end of the day, education, the direction we're going as we speak, this country cannot handle the problems that we're going to have down the road. But if we had school choice and we were able to send our kids where they want to send them, get them out of some of these environments that they're in, or away from these teachers, like you were just saying, this young girl was being approached about, you might want to change your gender. I mean, it's just absolutely sickening. And this teacher is sick. They have no business teaching our young people. But the problem that we have is those things are encouraged in a lot of our public schools, and parents have no say. And that's one reason Glenn Youngkin, the governor of Virginia, a few months before the election was down 10 points. And when that other governor comes out and says, listen, parents have no say. They should have no say with their kids. Game, set, match. And that's going to be a big issue in this coming election. And it should be, because kids are the future, education's the future of this country. And if we don't get this changed around, it's going to be hard for us to manage through these problems.
Absolutely. And I hope that the people, watched what happened in Virginia and recognized that the power actually lays with the people. Mm-hmm. And, the government is not going to solve these problems. Governments do what governments do. They grow, they infiltrate, and they control. That's why our founders worked so hard to give us a constitution to restrain that government and to make sure that the power base laid with the people. And I think people are beginning to understand that. I actually am reasonably optimistic that somehow we're going to get through this and actually come out better. They say it's always darkest before the dawn. And the overreach of the left, I think, is waking people up. We were kind of slumbering and just cruising along without recognizing what was happening to our nation and how quickly things can change and how quickly we can lose our freedoms. I mean, look at what's going on in Canada right now. Look at what's going on in Australia. Just overnight, almost, your freedoms are gone. And, they always have a good reason, they think, for taking them away. But there is never a reason to deprive people of their freedom. That was the basis of the founding of this nation. And it's something that we must continue to fight for extraordinarily hard. And I can't thank you enough for being one of the courageous people who is willing to take a stand and to actually do something about what's going on. We all know that it's wrong, but there are too many people who stand in the corner with their head down and hope nobody calls them a name. You don't care about that, and I appreciate that tremendously. And, Godspeed to everything that you're doing to protect the rights of our precious women athletes and all of our citizens. Because this is America, and it cannot be the land of the free if it's not also the home of the brave.
Thank you, Dr. Carson. God bless, and hope we can do this again soon. And next time when we talk, hopefully we're over this part about Title IX and have it going back in the direction it was going before the left got a hold of it.
Well, if we are, it'll be because of you. So thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Carson. Thank you.
All right.